picture. Why am I looking like that?
I don't know. I like that the blondes are still there.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 28 of the Pregnancy Desktop, inspired by Jason Concepcion's the NBA Desktop for The Ringer. And this is a recap of the last week, which was our 28th week in pre-twinland pregnancy. And the little backgrounder that I like to give each time at the beginning is that I have this background in being a two-time Olympian, and now we are expecting twins, and this is kind of like this adventure with some parallels to being an athlete, actually, surprisingly. Um, and here's the little recap of the week. So I like to open with my pun. So this so I was thinking, I'm talking to my partner who's beside me.
You're also talking to your audience.
And talking, well, but I'm explaining why I'm looking sideways all the time.
You know.
Okay. So I was thinking that it's going to be a really momentous occasion when they're born, and maybe we should do something like have a memento when it happens. It doesn't have to be monumental, but we should do more than the minimum. Okay, so anyway, that'll make more sense if you know that it was just Mother's Day. And so Mother's Day this week fell on a Sunday, which was the capstone of our week 28.
Isn't Mother's Day always on a Sunday?
I don't know.
I think
so. Okay, and so how big are they right now? I'll show you. According to most websites, almost all websites say they are eggplants. So it's pretty sure they're eggplants. About 11 sites said that. One weird site kind of went rogue and called it a courgette, which made me wonder if they were related. Like if, side note, zucchini and eggplant, they're not. But there is a really cute movie about courgette, which we really like. So that made me think of that. And some sites also said cantaloupe, which we've seen before. So repeating. And then plate of pancakes. Obviously the wrong shape, but cute. Coconut, which is also a repeat. And week 28 on this site says ferret, which is a bit grim. And I like this one because when I was a kid, we used to go watch Blue Jays games, so the size of a baseball cap, specifically the size of a Blue Jays baseball cap. And also, I have this exact system sitting on my shelf. This is a Nintendo. I think this is a little too big. Yeah, maybe they're going by mass, not volume. So that's the size rundown for week 28. If you can picture two of any of those, or combo of one of each. And this week for the section pregnancy win or fail, I put names down because I thought this would be easier than it is. So we're still kind of going around and trying out names. And I feel like I should be putting more effort into this given how much effort we put into things that are less essential. I follow this guy, Kieran Healy, on Twitter, and I was looking at some of his fun, like visualizations of patterns of naming kids over a long period of time. So he's just playing with the data and visualizing it, but it made me think like I should get on that and maybe take a more data-ish approach to it, because we seem to have these ideas for names and then we I don't know, it's like we've been looping around and haven't really settled on any. Maybe I need a different process. So okay, so this week, one big deal that we kind of flagged last week was that we did some special genetic testing. Each of us, myself and my partner as carriers, wanted to know if we scrambled our DNA together, is there anything that could come up when we combine ourselves? And one of the things that got flagged was actually something that I'm carrying. And the best explanation I found of it, or we found of it, was from the website. So I'm going to use this website to sort of explain things. So it's called Fragile X. It's not that uncommon. I mean, it's not common, but it's, yeah. So to understand what I have, so in your, uh, when you have your genes, you have these patterns and things like a pattern, for example, you could think of it as a sentence with words, and you have these words that stack together, and when everything's okay, they stack together in a certain way. But in my case, I have a pre-mutation, which I'll explain more in a second. Uh, and it basically means that some of the words get repeated, and instead of a full mutation where they get repeated a lot, specifically over 200 times repeated, I have something that's called a pre-mutation where it gets repeated more than it should, but not as much. So I think my number was 57 or 59?
57.
57. But it's still more than it should. So it shouldn't be
30
more.
is normal.
Yeah, I think here on this website they say like 45. You should be under.
That's accurate. I think 30 is standard.
Okay, 30 is standard. And then if you're closer to 30, you're fine. If you're in the territory of 40s and 50s, it's not great, and there are some symptoms that go along with that.
But you have one that's 30.
Pardon?
You have one that's 30.
Yeah, but the range they give for non-carriers up to 44. So I have one X chromosome that is in this non-carrier range and one X that is in actually this range here, the low range of pre-mutation. So I'm going to skip over what it means for me. There's not that much, there's not a whole lot of implications for me, but there are implications if if I pass my X chromosome on and if that number of repeats lengthens. So here's a little diagram that shows how we pass this on. So I have two X's, one's fine, one has this pre-mutation. So there's a 50-50 chance that any of my children get that, let's call it the bad X. And then if they get the bad X, and if they just get it, they'd basically be like me and have one bad X if they're female, or their X chromosome would be the bad one if they're male. However, there's a risk that that pattern repeats. It increases the length of the repetition. So, in order to find out whether that happened to our fetuses, babies, we had testing done. I'm just scrolling ahead to show you some more stuff, but basically I'll talk you through. We went and we fortunately had saved some amniotic fluid from the amniocentesis, and then they were able to test that amniotic fluid and look to see exactly which X's they had. So skipping ahead to the results, they both got the bad X, and in both cases it didn't lengthen. So that so that's good news in the sense that they won't have to deal with, or we won't have to make a decision. I'm not explaining this very well, but like I can't multitask. I'm flipping away. We don't have to face a decision point where one of them had all of the implications of it mutating further. And those implications were pretty serious and included like intellectual disability and like pretty severe stuff. I thought I was going to show you the list in this document, but I actually didn't find the exact page I was looking for. Are you finding stuff? Right now I feel like my partner's beside me and he's Googling stuff. Anyway, so our results came back basically saying they won't have Fragile X syndrome. Excuse me. Do you want to add something to that? Okay. That was a lot. So I mentioned that it was Mother's Day recently. I'll just flip to this image as a placeholder. And just wanted to point out, it was really sweet because for the first time ever in my life, people were wishing me Happy Mother's Day, which that was very sweet. And But at the same time, for myself, I think of it not as my first Mother's Day. I think of it as this like one off that you get one time in your life where you're not yet a mother, but you're sure you're going to be. And so it was like a pre Mother's Day. I don't know. I don't have a good name for it. But this is the only year I'll get to have that. And in my head, that's what it was. And Kid Logic. So this is the last thing we'll end on. And my partner Daniel found this awesome. Do you want to explain it, or do you want me to?
Okay.
Found this great birthday card of a kid. Um, so here, can you? Oh, there you go. I'll let you just look at that for a second. There are so many good things about this card. Um, yeah, I love that the kid, like, so the person going down the slide actually starts smaller and starts lengthening and gets facial hair along the way. The card is to a man. And then he gets a cane, and then the kid has helpfully indicated at which point in the slide where you die at the end. And you don't just die, you die by like flying off, having an oh face, your cane goes flying, and then you fall into these spikes at the bottom. So it's very well thought through. A very good card from a kid to a parent. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of week 28. We'll see you again next week. Bye.